don't get depressed. You don't want people to think you're weak. So you just keep it to yourself.
I felt down, but it wouldn't go away. I couldn't be bothered doing nothing. I felt like crap. So I drank.
I was sitting at the table and I couldn't eat. I just sat there crying.
Men do get depression. Find out more. Call the Beyondblue info line or visit our site.
Bipolar disorder is the same thing as manic depression. Knowing the name helps you understand what's happening to you, but it doesn't make it any easier to deal with. You're so high, so low, isolated, hating the world, hating yourself. It's exhausting, but helping someone with bipolar isn't beyond you.
I was going through a bit of a rough patch and feeling pretty down about things, and I didn't really feel like there was anyone that I could talk to. I contacted the Beyondblue support service through online chat. Contacting the support service for the first time was really daunting, but it was really helpful to be able to talk through what I was going through at my own pace, and in an anonymous, confidential way as well. I think a lot of people sometimes think that their problem isn't big enough to seek help, but if you don't seek help when it's a small problem, it then turns into a big problem. You can call the support service about absolutely anything. No matter what it is that you're going through, there's someone there to listen to you and to support you.
The Beyondblue support service. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Once upon a time. Welcome to Australian Booklovers, your destination for imagination.
A big warm welcome to everyone and a huge thank you for joining us once again for the Australian Booklovers Podcast. Now, our mission, as always, is to bring fabulous Australian and Indigenous literature spanning a whole range of genres to book lovers all around the globe, as well as fantastic resources and information for passionate authors looking to write their next bestseller. I am Darren Kazankos, dystopian science fiction and horror author, avid reader, and one of your co-hosts and co-founder of the Australian Booklovers, coming to you today from Corner Country.
And I'm Veronica Strachan, aka V.E. Patton, fantasy, memoir and picture book writer, reader, and your other co-founder and host, coming to you from Wurundjeri, Woiwurrung country.
Although that may be the next episode, you may not be saying that, but that's for a discussion down the track, yes. But nonetheless, episode number 49. Now, normally I would come in and try and make some light humour of the numerology or the meaning behind 49 and all those, fun, cool facts. However, this is a very special edition of the Australian Booklovers Podcast, and this is, it touches on a little bit of a serious subject, but nonetheless, it is still just a wonderful episode because, Veronica, as we both discussed last night, we were so graced to be joined by Sandy Barker and Kate Forster, who told us all about absolutely astounding new initiative that is being unrolled as we speak, as this is going to air and as the days unfold from this moment forward. But look, without giving away too much for our listeners, obviously it is a new website. It's a new initiative involving Australian authors and people from all avenues of the community for, to raise funds to support Beyondblue. But we'll learn all more about that. But how fantastic was the opportunity to talk with them? It was really something special.
You have absolutely summed it up. I could just go home now.
Or you can put that in your pencil case and then I can say, your turn next time, and I'll hide for half an hour. No, but no, it really was.
No, it was brilliant because what I was thinking is what an absolute privilege to talk to those two women about something that for them was just so important that they stepped out of their usual role. They, they're both authors. They both have other jobs and things happening in their life, but they felt the need to jump into something that would raise money for mental illness or mental health. And the difference is that they explain, which they'll explain, as they go through the interview. So it was just such a privilege to listen to them. And I feel like we're in this amazing position that people will trust us with their stories. And it is really about sharing those stories and also the resources for people all over the world. So it was a great interview. It was just amazing. And really, the best thing we can do is take our listeners straight to the interview.
I think that is a perfect idea. So, ladies and gentlemen, listeners, everybody out there, thank you for joining us for episode number 49. This is a very special edition. Please enjoy the wonderful panel interview we have with all of the guests and pay definite attention to some of the fantastic ways that you can be involved, be supportive, be a part of, or just simply maybe discover things about yourself or the people around us in society. And most of all, be inspired about, I guess, waking up and deciding that you want to play a part in society and actually have make a change, make a difference. And I think that's the biggest thing I took out of it was if you think about wanting to be, make a contribution to better the society around you, the community around you, it can be done. And oh boy, have they begun that process for this very amazing initiative, which we're about to hear of.
They certainly have.
Yes. Now, we're not going to say without further ado because I think we're both trying to eliminate that from our vocabulary.
Yes,
or
our
segues.
filler words.
So perhaps we shall say, well, I'm not going to say strap yourselves in either, listeners. I'm just going to say here is something truly special.
Yes. And now over to you for a fabulous introduction, Sandy Barker.
Well, hello, everybody. I'm joining you tonight from the land of the Wurundjeri people and the Kulin Nation, the heart of downtown Melbourne. And I'm very grateful to be here. I write romantic comedies set in gorgeous locations, which has been a bit of it's been my own vicarious travel for the last couple of years, writing about places that I can't visit. I've been going to throw to my colleague and friend, Kate Foster.
So yes, hello, I'm Kate. I'm joining you from the land of the Yugambeh people, the beautiful Gold Coast. It's been very sunny today, lots of storms forecast for tomorrow, so that's nice, more of those. So I'm a children's author. I write middle grade fiction mainly. My first book was published last year, Pause. And this year, in just a short time, I have my second book out, The Bravest Word. And some more books maybe on the horizon, but I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about those yet.
Could you not give us an exclusive?
I should have checked, shouldn't I? No, I don't know.
No,
I'm not sure if I'm allowed.
Don't get into trouble.
No. I'm also going to tell you a little bit about the third person who is very important to today's conversation, and that's my lovely friend and extraordinary author, Kate Gordon, who is a Tasmanian author. She's also writes middle grade. Her book won the last year's CBCA award, which was Asta's Good Right Things. I'm not sure if anybody's read that, but it's just a beautiful piece of work. But Kate is an extraordinary writer. She writes with so much poetic beauty, and she's also that kind of person. So she's just lovely. So she can't be with us today. So I'm flying her flag.
Oh,
good,
gorgeous.
Good to be flying her flag, and she has those books with the lovely covers as well. Yes, for our readers, we actually have a copy of Kate Foster's book, The Bravest Word, to give away. So if you are not signed up, you better jump on our newsletter because it only goes to newsletter people.
Oh, that's exciting.
It is exciting. I was very excited, Kate, because it came wrapped with a beautiful bow on it. I thought, someone sent me a present. Then I thought, I can't really keep it. I haven't really got any little ones who would get the best from it, so I better give it away to our readers. So that's lovely. And welcome to Australian Book Lovers.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having us. We really, really appreciate it.
And it's such a good cause that there was no hesitation in going, let's chat to Kate and Sandy and Kate. So tell us about what your initiative is.
Okay, so Authors for Mental Health. That's what we've called it. We felt it was the most appropriate name for what we want to do. So basically how it started is that I write very much books reflective of my own life, which is very much, mental illness is a huge part. So anxiety, depression, OCD. I was always called sensitive and overthinker, those kind of things, which is true. I am those things, but those things also often come with names, and those names we seem still as a society to be quite reluctant to use and talk about openly. So what I wanted to do with my books, I'm thrilled that my books are out there. The Bravest Word is about childhood depression, and I'm thrilled that it's out there. It's going into children's hands soon, and it will hopefully teach them to, talk more about this at an earlier age, and, start to recognise their own emotions, what's healthy and what's not healthy. And on top of that, we've been through Australia, well, the world, but Australia's been through so much over the past couple of years, the drought, the bushfires, pandemic, and all of the horrendous restrictions that came with that, and our youngsters in particular are really suffering. Their schooling was interrupted. They didn't cope. A lot of them didn't cope with being cut off, no socialising, the home learning. And in a time when social media is king, that instant access to news and often misinformation, to be honest, it has really affected them. It's taken a huge toll. And, I think really we're coming into a new pandemic, which is the mental health pandemic. So that really was how Authors for Mental Health was born for me. It was a way that I could do more. I wanted to reach more people and help more people and start more conversation. And, it's quite hard doing that in your own little corner on your own. Sometimes you feel like your voice just isn't carrying. So that's why, I started to reach out to author friends, and Kate Gordon being one and Sandy being the other. So I will hand over to Sandy now to continue with what we're doing.
Well, when I got wind of what Kate and Kate were doing, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the best cause ever, because, I'm a person who's also suffered from mental illness in my life, and I have tended to speak quite openly about that, particularly in the last decade. And, it's certainly not something I kind of bring up right away when I meet people, but if, people ask, and I also write it into my book. So as I said at the beginning, I write rom-coms, I write these travel rom-coms, but I do have characters who suffer from anxiety, from, bouts of depression, and it's something that is a real part of them as characters. So my books might be kind of a light enjoyment on the whole, but they still get into some heftier issues, and still, for me, that was my way of kind of exploring my own mental health issues, because I do suffer from anxiety and I have suffered from depression. So that was kind of a way for me to tap into that and give those characters 3 dimension, but also to normalize mental illness. It's such a prevalent, 1 in 3 people in their lives are going to suffer from depression, but it's still this
1 in 3. That's amazing.
1 in 3. So still having the stigma attached to, putting your hand up and saying, I have depression, or I'm suffering from depression, or I have suffered in the past. It's, we want to normalize that. And that, I think, that's what was so appealing about this initiative, is it was this proactivity around, it's not just to raise money, it's to raise awareness and to start the conversation and to get people feeling comfortable talking about it all. So when Kate, I think she put something out on Twitter, and I contacted her on Twitter and I said, yes. And then she emailed me. And I wrote back, I was like, I will do all the things, So I was like, I'll put something up for auction. We'll talk about the auction in a bit. But I was like, and I can do a blog post and kind of, and so it all kind of snowballed from there. And I said, look, I'm also happy to kind of put my hand up for anything behind the scenes. So I was like, hey, have you thought about this? We could do this. And, I reached out I reached out to you all, and you said, absolutely, let's have a chat about this very, very important issue. So we started tic-tacking by email, and I think our email chain got to like 30 emails. But we were just bouncing ideas off each other and just to expand the initiative. So it is the auction, and we'll tell you when that is in a minute. But yeah, it's just kind of like, how can we spread the word? And I was like, I have a friend who works at Beyondblue. That would be a great partner. And, so it just kind of snowballed. But really, it's Kate's brainchild, and you've been amazing, Kate. So huge kudos to you for even having this idea and for being bold and brave and speaking up and asking for authors to contribute, because I think the response has been quite resoundingly, yes, we want to contribute for sure.
It really has, and thank you. I was about to say the same thing about you. I was going to say you have been amazing. When I first started doing this and I sent out that first batch of emails, I didn't know what to expect. I'm not the most confident of people. I have the ideas, but I often don't have the confidence or often the know-how, I guess. I'm not brilliant with socializing and understanding people all the time. So I just didn't know what to expect. So when I did start to get emails back, it was quite reassuring. And then you, Sandy, emailed me and were like, let's do this, this and this. I was like, yes, let's do this, this and this. So it really gave me a boost and the confidence to know that, it was a lovely idea, and it was something that really does need to be done. It's not just me living inside my own little shell. And it was, because of you, I think it's really given me the confidence to step out a little bit further and be bold. So thank you.
We've certainly got a lot from each other already in working on this together. So thank you.
That's good. The writing community, I was going to say, the writing community is amazingly generous with their time and effort. And I know when the bushfires happened, there were authors for fireys and that kind of thing. Yeah, that was another great one. So tell me, I'm not sure who's going to tell me this, but what exactly is taking place as part of Authors for Mental Health? How long have we got? Is that right? How long is a piece of string?
Yeah. I can kick this off. So we've mentioned an auction, and that goes from April 1st to the 6th, and we'll talk a little bit more about kind of what's up for auction. And as I said, we were starting to think about how else we could spread the word and kind of expand, not just social media, but we've got some social media posts that we prepared, so everybody who's participating can kind of spread the love and share the word, spread the word. But then, as I said, we thought of podcasts. So we immediately thought of Australian Book Lovers.
Excellent. Good thinking.
Well, you guys just do such great stuff. You really are so supportive of the writing community and the reading community. And we reached out to Danny V from Words and Nerds. Great. And, that simple question, hey, we want to talk about something important. So really grateful to both you, well, all three of you, so you, Darren and V, and Danny V, just for saying yes. And we will be doing a podcast with Danny V on April 3rd that will go out live and then be on her podcast. And, then Danny came back and said, hey, I want to do a blog post for you. I'm like, okay. And Kate had already started asking authors if they wanted to contribute a blog post. So we've actually got a blog series. And we started off with Oliver, I want to say his name right, Oliver P., but he's Oliver Fomavan.
Yes.
We started off with him in the past week, so he kicked us off. I've posted on the weekend. Kate's got a post coming up. Danny V's got a post coming up. Kale McHurst. So they're a comic artist. So they've written this fantastic comic, what we call graphic novel about their experience with mental illness, and then also the wonderful author Ellen Dawson. So we've got this kind of 6-post blog series. And when we meet up with Danny, we're going to be doing a panel discussion. So our good author friend Anna Weightley is going to be joining us, and we also are going to be talking to a mental health first aid specialist. So this is a friend of mine who I worked in her team as we were colleagues and became friends. I was a mental health first aider, and she is a mental health first aid trainer, and she's also a health and wellbeing specialist in a business. So she's going to be there. We're going to be talking about how we approach the topic of mental health in our writing, how everyone can practice self-care. So that's something that everyone can kind of have something to take away from. And also how to reach out to someone if you're concerned about their mental health and well-being. That's such an important thing, because sometimes we know that something's not quite right with somebody that we know, but we don't know what do you do? What do we say? What do you how do you approach that very critical but very difficult subject? So, yeah, it's just kind of snowballed, as I said, and
certainly gathered some momentum there.
It has, yeah. And even with the blog posts, like everyone's kind of taken their own approach, and I'm so grateful to see them come in and how everyone's being so open about it. It's just like, this is my experience, and there's always this lovely sort of take on it, and I loved Kate's take on her post. Like it's very hopeful, and there's a lot of hope in these posts, which I think is brilliant.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it's sitting back listening, it's just absolutely astounding how, it went from an idea to this, basically a little mini movement rolling forward. Like you said, it snowballed so quickly, and everyone's getting involved, and such an important message to get out there. And I probably should say, before I go any further, thank you so much, Kate and Sandy, for being a part and putting together this special edition. But Kate, you mentioned something earlier that really got me thinking, because when it comes to mental health, obviously depression, anxiety is something that has been a topic of discussion, from my side of the fence, I guess as we get older, it's something that rears its head in conversation, and we all know somebody, and I've been, somebody who's experienced it myself. But when you mentioned childhood depression, that actually caught me off guard, because it's not something I thought was prevalent, or even something that could happen at a young age. So the first couple of questions I wanted to throw out, if I may, and that is, is there something that's always been prevalent as far as childhood depression, or is it something that we're seeing, has been really spotlighted a little bit more, or maybe even becoming a little bit more prevalent because of the way of the world at the moment? And also for everybody out there, I guess we always bundle the two together in conversation so easily, that the depression and anxiety, but I think we all have an idea, our own individual idea of what the two are. And I'm wondering if you maybe could, if you both maybe shed a little bit of light on how you interpret depression versus anxiety, because they're two actual different sort of experiences, aren't they?
Yeah, they're very different beasts, absolutely. Well, to talk about the first point that you raised with childhood depression, I mean, yes, it's real, and it's been a problem for children, obviously, as long as it's been a problem for adults. I think the belief is that children or rather adults who have mental health issues, mental illness, it will be surfacing when they're children very often. So it can be showing sort of very, very young. And I think really the statistics and things that certainly that I've read, I'm not saying that I'm an expert and I know everything, because you can read so many different things these days. But I think around that sort of 10 upwards is really when it starts to become a big problem for children. So it's so important that us as adults, the important adults in these children's lives, and not just parents and carers, we're talking about, teachers, librarians, other family members, really anybody who's involved in children's lives, is learn about it, learn about the signs that are quite obvious, learn about the ones that are less obvious, learn about how we approach these children, learn about the small changes that we can make in everyday life to allow children to feel comfortable to talk about it. I think that's a big issue for children, is actually feeling the confidence and that trust to just reach out to somebody and say, I don't feel right, I keep crying, or whatever it is that's happening to them. So I just think, so many adults still are like, oh, children, don't get depressed. And actually, this is something that I wrote quite a lot about in The Bravest Word, is that, you do have this set of grown-ups who are still children have everything. Their lives are easy. And it's just not true. And like you mentioned, with the world that we're living in at the moment, there's so much information for children to read. It's really no wonder that depression is becoming and anxiety are becoming bigger beasts for children. When they've got all of these things swirling around their heads. When I was young, we used to have a show on called News Round. It was like a 10-minute segment before Neighbours. And that was the kids' news. And it was, it told you about the big events going on in the world and sort of headlines and a few details. And then it would have some joyous things going on in the world as well. So you had that nice balance. Nowadays, I don't think that any of that is controlled. The information our children have at their fingertips is not controlled in the same way. So it's, I think it's quite frightening for them. So, yeah. Sorry, what was the second question?
Well, the second part was, we bundle anxiety and depression together. Yes. so often, but there is a distinct difference. But is it a difference that we all have individual ideas, or would you say there is a distinct? I mean, obviously clinically there is a division, but I guess and even more tricky. That's not correct English, but even trickier, should I say? When you're talking about childhood depression or childhood anxiety, which my inkling would have thought there would have been more anxiety, only because if I look back to when I'm 9, 10, 11, I can't imagine how I'd recognise depression. I mean, it's easy to try and talk to somebody as an adult and say, perhaps the way you're feeling is because of this or that, but what's a reference point for somebody who's still developing, and how do they recognise what depression is or anxiety? It must be really tricky. So is that
absolutely
something you tackle in your book? Or
yes, absolutely. Yeah, it really is. It's I didn't sort of want to talk too much about my book, but yeah, it definitely is something I think that I wanted to attack head on, and that's why I feel like this whole movement is so important. So it will help adults and the children. It will teach them exactly what signs we need to look for. And I think in terms of depression in children, it's withdrawal. And that's one of the biggest things I think that we can look for in our children, is that withdrawal, that not enjoyment of the things that they used to love, pulling back from friends, not doing homework. Well, I mean, perhaps not that one, because I'm not sure my kids have ever really been. So maybe I shouldn't talk about that I'll get myself in trouble with the school. But yes, I think, there are most definitely signs. Anxiety is a different beast. I don't know if Sandy wanted to talk more about the kind of the differences between the two, but just sort of quickly, I think, yes, they do present differently in different people. Depression is not the same for everybody, and anxiety is the same, but they are most definitely different beasts that require different approaches to learn how to deal with. I have both. I have social anxiety, and I think I probably had that first. That was what I had as a child, and I think where I've tried to deal with that in my life, it's obviously led to depression, and that's more of a recent thing, I think, for me. And the depression is more of a heavier feeling. It's more of a kind of a hopeless feeling, whereas anxiety is a lot more with your brain working overtime, telling you, talking you out of things, talking you into things, and just becoming a very, very sort of physical panic a lot of the time. But yeah, I'll hand over to Sandy and let her maybe talk a bit more if she wanted to.
That does, all of that resonates. And what was interesting, Darren, is that I'm publishing a lot of these blog posts on my own website, and so I've read them now, and they're ready to go. And almost all of us experienced these symptoms of mental illness as children. Almost all of us kind of go, I was always, I have very, very strong memories of around double digits, so hitting 10, 11, and just having these full-blown panic attacks that they were completely nonsensical of my family is not going to come home. I'm going to be left by myself, that sort of, and just watching the driveway for my family to come home, this really intense panic, absolute panic. And that has carried through into adulthood, and it's very illogical. It's you can be in the moment of a panic attack and know this is not logical, and still be experiencing that full fight, flight, or that experience, that adrenaline. That it's a really incredible thing, and I talk about that in my blog post. It's actually live at the moment, where I talk about naming it, being able to name it and say to the people I'm with, I'm having a panic attack right now. It is actually a tool that works for me. And I think that's something that's really interesting about, when we talk about the strategies that we use. Some of us talk about how we tried medication didn't work, or different, that sort of thing. That may not be the solution. And for me, medication wasn't the solution to deal with my depression. I went through other routes, and I get better and better at recognizing I'm on the slippery slope. I need to put a halt to this. When, in the last couple of years, there's certainly been times where I'm like, oh, here it is. Yes, this is what it is, and I can kind of, just kind of like waking up from a bad dream, go, okay, yep, all right, I need to take some action now because I am slipping into depression. Very, very different things. And what Kate said around depression just feels like this hopelessness, it's a bit like, that old story of if you put a frog in boiling water, it'll jump back out again. But if you put it in a pot of cold water and set it on to boil, it will boil to death. It's that. It happens sometimes it happens so gradually that you don't even realize until you just kind of have a jolt and go, I'm miserable all the time. You catch a look in the mirror and you just realize that you're frowning all the time. Like you just feel weight. It just feels really heavy. The world feels heavy. There's no joy to be derived from anything. Very, very different experiences, but they are the most common. So maybe they're the ones we feel most comfortable talking about when we do talk about mental illness, is they're the most common. As I said, 1 in 3 people are going to suffer from depression. And I think it's more people actually suffer from anxiety in their life. So, and it's, it's not all the time for me. It's not every day. But yeah, it's, it's still there. It's going to be something I'll be dealing with my whole life, I imagine.
Yeah, it's worth mentioning, like you say, there is also OCD, which I think a lot of people don't understand either. I think OCD, we all think, oh, well, that's just lining things up and having our pens really neat and our towels folded perfectly and things like that. And obviously, yes, that's probably, there's some truth in it. That is sort of a behaviour, because it's a behaviour people with OCD can control. They can control things if things are neat and tidy and lined up and sorted in their life. It's that control which they need and they obsess over, obviously, where the name comes from. But OCD is so much more. It's a terrifying thing. And without question, I think it's one of the things that scares me the most. I have a lot of all of these sort of things under control at the moment, not to say we don't slip in and out. But OCD, for me, was just not being able to get thoughts out of my head, thoughts coming into my head, in the middle of the night, waking me up, sending me into a spiral of panic, silly things, really, things that I've got no control over. I would hear a baby crying and all I could think about was this baby. I need to get to this baby. This baby's crying. It's being hurt. Someone's hurting it. These sorts of things. And just unbelievably controlling of my head. And I think OCD is something, again, which is different for people who suffer. It doesn't present the same for everybody, but it is that uncontrollable obsession that you have with things, and it's really quite terrifying.
That's an interesting way to describe it. I mean, obviously, I'm probably a victim of thinking of OCD as a particular, I guess a generic or maybe cliche, because it's not something I've been confronted with very often. But when you say that obsessive, but that relentless How did you choose it then? Like the overthinking and, perhaps even, I guess you could almost say thought loops. That's a different way of thinking it. And now I can imagine, I can see why it'd be terrifying, definitely.
Yeah.
As opposed to just something that's, something you have to incorporate into your life, and maybe it's a little bit weird, but it's not that at all, is it?
No, it's intrusive. I think that's the word I took away when I started to learn more about it. It's those intrusive thoughts, where they really, they are intruders. You can't get them out, and you are just going round and round and round and round, and there's no escape from them. It's to get that under control is very, very difficult. So I guess I should go back to the question.
No, it's all important. No, part of what you're trying to do.
I'm sitting here learning a lot. Thank you.
Part of what you're trying to do is end the stigma, Kate, because I know that on your Twitter account you've let's talk about the book just one more time. Then we have to talk about Sandy's latest book. But your book comes out in 58 days, 57 now probably.
Yes, yeah.
And you're putting a little fact about depression as a tweet. And number 58 was, some days depression is so much, so heavy, so complete. There's no way through and no way out. You are consumed. And your hashtag is end the stigma. So it's important to have those words be more familiar and to unpack our stereotypes and our standard responses, as Darren was saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're spot on. It's and it's amazing the number of people, that we speak to. It's particularly when you're like myself over the last few years, I've really immersed myself in this community of learning about mental illness. And so then when I speak to people outside of the community and they have no idea, they don't know anything about depression and anxiety and OCD, and it amazes me that what they do know is what they've gathered from old books, old TV shows, old newspaper articles and things like that. And it's like, we really need to move on from this now. We don't need to have us all get obsessed with depression and mental illness. We don't need to take that step, but we just need to talk about it a bit more freely and a bit more honestly and far more in a modern way, so it's accepted.
I will just bring in a little bit about some old-fashioned, being a very old nurse. In the early days, of course, there was a condition which was a medical diagnosis of female hysteria. So, let's just not get me started on the medical profession, but as a midwife, the mental illness I most came across was perinatal. Perinatal, which really, it used to be postnatal depression, but of course then people realise, well, it doesn't just suddenly start when the baby's born, that so often it is in fact the whole changing of the body often triggers that. And perinatal mental health, 1 in 5 women will get a degree of perinatal mental health illness issues. So it's pretty common, and we all come to it from a slightly different way. But female hysteria, which was just ridiculous. So let's not talk about that anymore. Let's talk about it.
But that's why, that's why the conversation like this is so important, because I think, me just sitting here starting to contemplate how wrong my perception of OCD might be. But saying that, I wonder how many listeners out there may be going through the same revelations. But not only that, how many people may suddenly help determine that, mental issues or different burdens that they're feeling that they're trying to push through may be signs or representations of a form of OCD or of a form of depression or of a form of anxiety that they didn't identify or failed to identify because their own understanding has been somewhat dictated by cliches, which of course may not match, and therefore they may not even, a person may be learning from conversations like this, just like I'm learning. So very goes to the importance of talking about these sorts of things.
Absolutely. And I think back to, it was about, I guess it was 30 years ago. Oh my gosh, that's a long time ago. So I was at university, and this is going to sound so cliched, but I was at university, I was home, it was a day I wasn't there at school, and I watched Oprah, And it said, and she was doing a show on depression, and she said, if you have more than 5 of these 10 symptoms, you are very likely depressed. And I had all 10.
Wow.
And I suddenly, I think I was like age 22, 23, and it was like literally like a light turning on. I just suddenly, everything made sense. And I understood. And that's going back, how we were talking about depression 30 years ago. And I had this revelation of, this is what I've experienced since I was in, 10, 11, 12. It's like, it has a name. And not only did I experience it, I recognized that my mom went through that. And, many people in my family on both sides, I'm like, it's just kind of like this massive, I see, so it's just like the veil had been lifted. Anyway, it's however people can come to it. And that's one of the main aims. And one of the reasons I wanted to kind of jump on and say to Kate, I want to help in any way, because her aims are really pure and important. Is we want to remove the stigma. We want people to start talking about this and understanding it. We want them to understand it in themselves and in others, and to have empathy for themselves and for others. So it's about that. And we've even got a website up and everything that's going on with resources and stuff. So Kate, did you want to talk about the website? Because I know that you spend a lot of time working on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's lovely to talk, actually. It's lovely to talk openly about these things. This is, like you said, this is exactly what, we want to achieve through this whole initiative, is this ability to just chat about it, and it not be like this big, huge, heavy conversation. And, we want people to say, oh, yeah, I recognise that too. I've got I feel like that. So, so thank you anyway for those questions, Darren. It's been good to share. So yes, we do. We have a website, which, as Sandy says, has got some resources on there, and obviously the auction. That was sort of where this all started. Was some way to raise a bit of money for Beyondblue, because the demand on their services is just so extraordinary lately, and I personally feel that's just going to continue. So when the auction starts, which is April 1st to 6th, all the bidding will be done directly on the website. I am very aware that there are a couple of very big auctions on the go at the moment, for the Ukrainian people, and obviously for the floods. When I put this auction together, there was no war and there were no floods. So I appreciate this is a huge ask for people who are already bidding on a lot of items and who are already, donating a lot of money to very, very obviously huge causes that need, people's support. So, I understand mental health support is an ongoing thing anyway. It's a forever thing. And, it's something that anybody can be affected by. So it's always worth thinking about these donating and supporting these things. So personally, I'd love this whole initiative to continue past April. So we've sort of got everything sorted to the end of April, I think, with more blog posts and what have you. But I would love this to continue longer. I'd like it to be a forever thing as well. I'd love to run some more auctions. I'd like to maybe sort of spread our wings and go over the borders and maybe run some auctions for US and UK and other organisations that support. I'd like to continue doing some more blogs, and I even thought maybe we could have a monthly newsletter we could put together for people within the industry, where we could pay people to write for us, to come in and give tips and advice about mental health. I would love this to be a thing that goes on forever, for more people to come and be involved, for it to be intersectional. So, we're sort of helping all marginalisations and what have you. At the moment, I'm just focusing on the current agenda, but I would love, people I'd love anybody really to email me or come to me, and or not just me, to Sandy as well, and say, look, I've got a great idea, this and this, and so maybe we could start planning for the rest of the year and see how things go from there.
Okay, I've got a great idea, Kate. It just came to me. What about anthologies?
Yes.
Because that's what writers do so very well. And you both have written mental health into your work. Put some short stories together so that it becomes the language that these are really exciting stories. Yes, mental health's in it, but it's not the be all and end all. It's just a normal thing. So there we go. Anthology. That's my idea. Now, did you tell us the website address?
No, I don't think I did.
And all the good things that are up for auction.
I know, because I want to talk about EJ Dawson, who's one of my neighbours. I know she has got an offering there, a fabulous editing or beta reading package, I think.
Yes.
So website first, and then tell us what's in the auction. What can people bid on?
Website is authorsformentalhealth.weebly.com. So that's Weebly, WEEBLY.com. authorsformentalhealth.weebly.com. That's the website, and all the information, not just about the auction, but the blog, links to the blog post, everything's on there as well. And yes, big list of and growing list of items to be bid upon.
Things like signed book packs, school visits from authors.
School visits, that's great.
I know, isn't that great? What a great idea.
Yeah.
Professional services for authors, as you mentioned, like editing, beta reading, that sort of thing, mentoring, manuscript assessment, and 1 hour chat with an author. So if you have a favourite author and they've got the 1 hour chat there, you can bid on that. So lots of variety for the author and writing community, as well as for the readers across Australia. So brilliant.
Excellent.
Wow, so there's definitely been some strong reach out then, and some strong, people coming on board and helping out.
Oh, absolutely. We've got some fabulous people who have donated brilliant items, and just to mention that we are still accepting items as well. So if there is anybody out there, not just authors, illustrators, editors, we have, I know we're going to name a few people in a second who have already donated, but if anybody else, we're accepting items up until March 25th. So if anybody else wanted to donate something, then please go to the website, have a look at what's already on offer, and then email me, contact@katejfoster.com, and let me know what you'd like to donate, because everything on the website, everything there is to bid on, the starting price is $10.
That's fantastic. I mean, look at some of the things you've got there. Here's another neighbour of mine, Dee White, who lives up the mountain ranges, picture book assessment.
I love it. We've cornered the market on that part of Victoria.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, we do have the Mountain Riders Festival happening in November, but I won't say anything. But how about a 1 hour mentoring consultation with Holden Shepherd? How good would that be? That man is a legend.
He's fantastic. He's
Isn't
fantastic.
he
And, he just was a big yes from him as well. And we've got other young adult authors, Anna Weightley, Elaine Webster. Yeah, she's fantastic. Kay Kerr. And then we've got award-winning children's author Fiona Hardy, editor Suzanne O'Sullivan, who's worked with big-name authors such as Jessica Townsend, Nick Blank and Sean Tan. And we've got adult authors, EJ Dawson, as you mentioned, Ali Reynolds. She's donated several items. Brilliant. And middle grade authors Oliver P., Siobhan Plotzer, Alison Tate, and Anne Siddle. So, oh my goodness. And there's some Sandy Barker books on there too.
Yeah, I mean, the list goes on.
For me, but there's lots of different kinds of books on there.
Yeah, we've got there's so many other names I've just got to drop in, because these people are amazing, and we all need to or if we don't know their names already, we need to be looking them up and buying their books. And we've got Bren McDibble, who's just a fabulous person. Love her. She also writes as Callie Black. We've got Pamela Freeman or / Pamela Hart, who writes kids and adult books. She is just absolutely delightful.
I did a course with her. I should have waited and just bid on the auction.
She really is just an incredible person, so talented and just so helpful and kind. And you've mentioned Dee. Dee is a lovely, really wonderful friend of mine. She's been such a huge support over the last couple of years. I can't even begin to, sing her praises enough. She's just a sweetheart. And she's actually going to be coming to my book launch as well. So I feel so honoured to have her there. And also my very own editor, Christina Schultz, she has offered a critique. And I mean, Christina is just an incredible editor. She's just, she makes you really think about what you're writing, why you're writing it. So she's a great one. We've also got Sue Whiting. I mean, she's just amazing, not just as an author, but as an editor as well. And then we've got Mary-Ann Master, Pip Harry and Matt Moore, who have all, their recent middle grade books have all been on the CBCA notable list. We've got authors, non-fiction and picture book authors, Julie Murphy, Dr. Jordan Bell. We've got James Foley, Katrina Germain, I think that's how you say it. We've got a lovely friend of mine, wonderful, talented author and illustrator, Sarah Capadia. And then look, I've also wrote these down because it just thought they were great things to say. We've got Mega Macca Matt Cosgrove.
Oh, that is a cool thing to say.
And the real pigeon himself, Andrew McDonald. So they have all, but all of these people have donated items, which you can go to the website and see and bid on. And as I say, everything is $10 to start with. So even if everything sold for $10, you know, that's a wonderful amount of money that we've raised. But obviously we'd like more than that, please.
I think you'll be getting more than that.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. And I mean, that list you've just given us, that's only just the beginning, because, you know, no doubt as word spreads and, you know, we're going to get this out, hopefully, you know, at the time of recording within 48 hours, so that everyone's got plenty of opportunity to reach out. And now, and just so for any authors out there or anybody that wants to donate towards the auction, obviously to support such an incredibly important cause, how does it roughly work? So, for example, would people post in if you know, are happy with what they, you know, if somebody wants to be involved, do they send something in to a distribution point, or is it a case of the author that may be wanting to donate a couple of books, they'll just simply, once the auction's complete, will they forward it? Just so people are aware, so it makes it easier for them to get involved. And
okay. So when they've won the item.
Oh, no. So for any authors out there that want to donate some books.
Sorry,
no, so sorry, I wasn't sure how to. It's one of those weird things. I don't know how to explain it. So, for example, if I want to donate a book, would I simply give you the details and that would be auction, and then I'd post that to the winner, or is it we'd organise with you to send it to yourself, and you have somebody that's going to distribute all the auctioned off goodies? How does it work?
Yeah, so basically, if anybody who wants to donate something, whether that's a critique, a school visit, a book, whatever it is, thank you very much is the first thing I say. And if you email me, if you have a look on the website, first of all, we have the list of items, and what we ask for is item details. We ask for any conditions and restrictions that you want to apply. So, for example, if you're doing a school visit, you know, will the restrictions be to a certain place? So if you lived in Sydney, would you want it to be in Sydney? Or would it be an online school visit, for example? We also ask for, obviously, your bio and any links and any photos. So really, that's all that we need from you. So I would ask for you to email those details to me at contact@katesjfoster.com, and then I will just add it to the website and send you a link just to make sure that you're happy and there's nothing you wanted to change or add. And then we go from there. So how most of the authors have worked it is that once the auction is closed, I will be contacting the highest bidder to let them know that they've won. They will then be making their donation directly on our Beyondblue fundraising page. So it's worth just actually saying there that even if there was nothing in this auction that anybody wanted to bid on, which I just can't imagine that's going to be the case.
That's an alternate reality that doesn't exist,
But if they just wanted to donate some money, then obviously thank you so much. We have a fundraising page set up on Beyondblue. It's the website's fundraise.beyondblue.org.au/authors for mental health.
Beautiful.
So we ask people to go there, and obviously the highest bidders, I will direct them through. Once we start emailing, I'll let them know they've won. I'll direct them to this fundraising page. They make their donation. They're instantly sent a receipt. They'll send that to me, and I'll put them in touch with their winning, the author who donated their item.
Beautiful.
And, so all of the authors will be sending out their own books, unless obviously they've agreed something with me in advance. I have a couple here that people have sent me to send out. So that's, you know, I'm more than happy to support authors as much as possible. We've tried to make it as simple as possible, nice and straightforward. now we just need people to bid.
So can you tell us a little bit about why Beyondblue? So tell us what they do and why people should support them.
Yeah, of course. I'll start super quick and then I'll hand over to Sandy. I feel like I've done all the talking, sorry.
No, you haven't.
Okay. So Beyondblue, I think it's a very well-known name.
Yes.
I think if we think of mental health services, Beyondblue is probably the one that most people will say. It's I guess a household name. I'm not sure if it would go that far, but I think it's the one, yes, that most people would recognise. Certainly not the only service. It's really important, and we do have this on our resources page, FAQ page on our website. There are some amazing organisations out there other than Beyondblue, like Headspace and Kids Helpline, and so also places that you can just go online and learn about mental health rather than actually looking for support services. Beyondblue helps everybody, which I think is what made it the best choice for this auction. So they help everyone from children right through to adults, including family, friends, and anyone else who's supporting people with mental illness. And it's absolutely, it's a brilliant organisation. And I think I mentioned earlier that it's the demand for services has absolutely gone through the roof over the past couple of years. The pandemic really has affected so many people's mental well-being, and Beyondblue offers a service you can call 24/7 and just talk to somebody, because sometimes we need more than that. We do need a lifeline. So Beyondblue offers all of these, and considering how much the demand for their services has increased, it's really time for us to do more, I think, and support them, and that's obviously why we chose them.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And just what I think is brilliant about them is that the information is so well researched and curated and accessible. Like if you go on their website, which is just beyondblue.org.au, it's just straight up information. What is mental health? What is mental illness? And they make that clear distinction right off the bat. Mental health is actually about wellness. So we talk about mental health being a good thing, just like we talk about, you look after your physical health, you look after your mental health. And then mental illness is when your mental health is suffering. So that, just even that clarification, because sometimes we do actually interchange those terms and we talk about mental health as being the illness, whereas mental health is the well-being part. And then, it's like, what are the types of mental health for each? What are the symptoms? Where can I get help? There are links to professional help, support groups, community groups, lots of information about strategies that people can use either to seek help or address those factors that might be contributing to their mental health issues or illness. And, that's just their website. And as Kate says, they bring all that to life in the real world. They bring that help and support and understanding. They have a whole team of mental health experts whose sole aim is to help. And simply, that is an organisation whose aims are aligned with ours. Will, bring the topic to the fore, bring awareness to mental health and well-being, open up the dialogue about mental illness, support those who need it, remove the stigma. And it's incredible work that they're doing. It's highly, highly important work. And as Kate said earlier, that we're on the cusp of a mental health pandemic, or a mental illness pandemic, I should say, just using my own terminology that I've just said. And we need to be looking out for each other. There's an Are You Okay day, but really every day is Are You Okay? Check in with yourself, check in with others. It's important.
Sandy, you mentioned a little while ago about self-care. What are the kind of things that you found work for you?
Well, interestingly, we did reach out to somebody and asked if they would, one of the authors, and asked if they would be able to contribute a blog post. And their response was, I need to say no. I would love to, but I need to say no. And Kate and I were having a preliminary discussion with Wendy DeMarti, who'll be kind of our expert panelist on the next podcast we do. Mm-hmm. And she was saying, we talked about the power of saying no, the fact that a lot of us, particularly in the writing community, we say yes to a lot. We, will you beta read this thing? Will you come on this? Will you do all this work? And this person expressed it as, I just need to say no to the stuff that's not on my immediate desk, like not in my work, just because I need that for myself. And drawing that boundary, I respected that so much and it actually prompted me to say no to something that came across my desk as another, just could you please? And I was like, I just was, it was a time when my edits had just landed, stuff was in my day job was really intense. And I thought I need to practice self-care by saying no to this thing. So that was one of the key things that we've talked about around practicing self-care. I mean, of course, there's all the other things you can do is, we all know how to, adult, which is get a good night's sleep and eat well and get moving and get out in the sunshine.
Hang on, who is the sweet Sandy?
Well, we know we're bombarded with the information about that.
Yeah.
But, just that importance of, it's the mentality of put your own oxygen mask on first before you say yes to helping others, because if you have an empty tank and then you're giving, then you're not going to be in a position to give back to yourself, and you're not going to be in a position to give to others for much longer. You're going to run out of fuel. So self-care is not selfish. That's what one of the things that Wendy said, when we were having our discussion. Self-care is not selfish. It's actually probably one of the best things that you can do for yourself and your loved ones, because then when you are full up, you have more to give. So it was a really important conversation. But I thought that was my biggest takeaway, is the ability to give yourself permission to say no.
That's good.
Do you mind if I jump in quickly there, just based on what you just illuminated there, Sandy? I'm just curious to hear from everyone with regards to, you did, it has been brought up that we may be on the cusp or in the middle of, a mental health pandemic, and I could definitely see how that could be the case. But do you think there are also signs out there that the importance that we're placing on different aspects of our life as a society is beginning to shift? And is it perhaps, because I'm reading a lot about, as in just, through the news stuff that's just flooding the social media, etc., about what are they calling it, the Great Migration or the Great Resignation, and about, how people who have been working from home for 2 years now are finding more reason to not want to go back in the city and recalibrate their lifestyles to place more importance on those things that were maybe left in the sort of noise of a hustle bustle lifestyle. And do you think we may see our society change slowly for the better, in the sense of identifying those areas which do require more importance, where we say no a lot more to things that perhaps we placed importance before, and where we can have the confidence now? Because I think saying no is huge, isn't it? And that's a superhero power for most, because it's definitely something we could all learn how to do. But do you get the feeling maybe there's a shift out there where we are sort of heading towards, even though looking out the window things aren't looking too great right now, but as far as when the dust settles, do you think maybe we're going to be looking at a slightly different society when it comes to what's important and what's not?
I am very hopeful of that. I am very hopeful of those connections, and those personal connections being many people's number one priority. I mean, the border's open and the planes are full. It's people want to reconnect, and that the reprioritization of people and connections and relationships over material things for me, certainly recalibrating, and I think for a lot of people, so that I'm quite hopeful of that.
Yeah, I watched a TV show not long ago. I'm a huge Bob Mortimer fan. There's an English thing. I don't expect you to be with me on this one, but he was a comedian, and Paul Whitehouse. They did a show together not long ago called Gone Fishing, and it's just these two guys in their 60s. They go fishing every day, and they talk about men's mental health. and it's just brilliant. It sounds very morbid, but it just isn't. They discuss things like death. They discuss things about their physical health, and importantly, they talk about their mental health as well, and they have experts come on and talk to them as well about mental health. And one of the professionals said one of the biggest things humans enjoy is connection with other humans. It's what keeps us going. It's what keeps us ticking. It's what keeps us alive. And one of the biggest problems that we've had lately is loneliness. And that has really made so many people reach out for help and desperately realize what they need in life and what they want. And like Sandy said, we just want to reconnect. We just want to see other people. We want to be back together with other people because it keeps us healthy. It keeps our minds healthy. Not everybody, obviously, some of us, can only socialize. I say some of us, I'm talking about myself. They can only socialize in sort of snippets. But just that being able to do that when you need to and when you want to is such an important thing. And sort of going back to what you were saying, Darren, about this big shift in people's priorities. I don't know if it's maybe just the life I've led, but I think there have always been people who are very good at saying no. And I think there's a other side of the coin where there's the people who just say yes because they just either don't really sort of want to let anybody down, or they like to be busy. And I think we're definitely seeing a shift with those people starting to think, well, actually, why should I always be the one that's sort of doing the helping or feeling down because I can't help everybody? And I think, yes, we're seeing a shift. And actually my blog post that I wrote, which I think is it tomorrow, Sandy?
Yeah.
Yes. Talks a lot about how I've dealt with that, because I unfortunately am one of those people who just feels the need to please everybody all the time. And I think that's probably added to a lot of my issues that I have now. But because of my being diagnosed with all this big, lovely, long list of things, it's actually allowed me to understand myself better and to find a balance. And I think that's what a lot of people are doing now.
And the balance is important, but I can't help but thinking sometimes, and I speak for myself. I'd never speak for anybody else, but where that wanting to say yes, a lot of times I think it comes from so much of the day or so much of life being not necessarily out of your control, but with demands that just need to be done, whether it be work demands, etc. Whereas by saying yes to something, it's saying yes to something that you at the time identifying as an activity or something that will bring happiness or bring joy. But what can happen is when that balance isn't there, then that can become a source of anxiety, because the life, for want of a better word, sometimes doesn't let you get to do those things you say yes to, which originally begin as a seed to be something to be joyous and something to bring you comfort and happiness. But then if you may find yourself saying yes because you're craving those opportunities to do things that feel good and that are going to make life, fun. And then, of course, sometimes life gets in the way and makes that difficult to achieve. And so sometimes, speaking for myself, then it compounds. So you want to say yes again because you really, the work gets so stressed out sometimes, like, no, I really want to do this. So you say yes to doing something else, and it can snowball, which is really, it's a funny way of the snake chasing its tail. But the irony for me, I guess, in the last year is this whole term we say rat race, and there's someone who mental health has definitely been an issue in my life for quite a long time. Insidious in the way sometimes you can look back and when you learn about it, and then you can look back and see the behaviour. But what a big revelation that came to me was learning about the old rat study that most people did in psychology. And I think I brought this up previously, where they put rats in where they have a choice of food or cocaine or liquid, whatever drug, amphetamines might be, and the rats will choose the drug until death. And so it was proof that addiction was so strong and whatnot, until someone pointed out that if you actually put those rats in a position where they have those social interaction and they have the ability to mate and have joy and have fun things to play in, they don't choose the drugs at all. And I thought that's such a beautiful, and so we've actually been taught wrong in that instance for that particular study, but such a eye-opener when it comes to maybe how much of is that a reflection on what is driving a lot of our depression and anxieties in a world that sometimes isn't giving us the access to those things that we are a right in life to bring us happiness and joy. And so do we find ourselves, feasting on those things that drive us to states where we don't want to be in?
Yeah. Big resounding yes from me. That resonates so much.
So we've got to break out of the old rat race and jump into the new rat race, which is a rat party with lights.
It's just breaking that cycle. And I think, we're living down in Victoria, the Groundhog Day jokes.
Yeah.
We got
very close to home.
Groundhog, it was just Groundhog Day. I mean, I think we had 380 days of lockdown in 20 months. And when you think about numbers like that,
that's huge.
My partner and I we were super fortunate. We're like, okay, we like each other. We have enough space in our house for us both to work here. We both still have, our income. So, and we touch wood, have not had COVID. So we've had fortune. But we had to do things to kind of, what day is it? Like what day is it? Okay, we're going to have date night on a Friday night. Like we had to do something that was kind of normal. So we would go to different parts of the house and get ready and meet in the living room. Oh, you look nice, So it's how are we kind of emerging from this cocoon of enforced cocoon? We have this opportunity now. Society-wise, we can slough off a lot of the things that we did think were important. So that's why I am kind of hopeful that I'm seeing that too. I'm seeing that there's a shift amongst the people I know, and what is the priority? It's just about spending time with each other, reconnecting, having those conversations, seeing each other face to face if possible. That's so great. And I am hopeful. I'm the what would you call me? Hopeful pragmatist.
That is a good way to be.
Well, without hope, there wouldn't be this whole auction or this website. And I suspect this. I know, Kate, you said that the hope is that it extends beyond April. I think that's inevitable now, isn't it? I think you've started something. Everybody's together. You've all started something really important, really special, really magical. And I suspect that as more people learn about it, and it's such a beautiful thing to support, you might be in this for the long haul. And there may be a whole new frontier coming that's going to be there, a tool and an outlet for everybody. So that's fantastic.
I hope so. I really do. I'd love the publishing industry. Like Sandy and I talked about this with Wendy. As writers, publishers, we're a sensitive bunch. Writers really do put a piece of their soul and heart onto the page, and it's a very vulnerable job to be. And then on top of that, we are being rejected, not just by agents and editors, we're being rejected by readers telling us they didn't like the book. And although you're told with thick skin, this is the industry you're in, and that's true. You absolutely have to understand the industry that you're in, but it's still like little bullets, I think. And I would love the publishing industry as a whole to just pull together and talk more about mental health and look out for each other, and just learn ways that we can support each other in quite sort of what is a harsh, competitive industry. So I do hope it lasts beyond April. My year is absolutely packed solid with things. So I'm hoping
spaghetti-o.
I'm hoping people might come along and help out with that, because I don't know if I could I've got Sandy and Kate, which is marvelous, but if anybody else wanted to come in and help us and spread our wings, and I'd be more than happy to welcome to the gang.
Yeah, absolutely. Join the team.
Join the team. And the best place is to tell us one more time how people can get in touch with you, Kate, and the website for Authors for Mental Health.
Yeah, so the website is authorsformentalhealth.weebly.com. And on there we have the auction, obviously, all the items listed. We have direct links to the blog posts from the fantastic guest bloggers talking about their mental health. And I promise they are brilliant, super helpful and super validating blog posts. We also have some resources on there. And a link direct to our fundraising page. If anybody wants to ask me any questions, I'm always on Twitter. If anybody doesn't know that, then they probably don't go on Twitter. But I'm always on there, so happy. My DMs are always open to people. Also on Instagram, but not on there as much, or my email address, which is contact@katejfoster.com. And I always respond within about 48 hours maximum. So if anybody has any questions or want to put their hand up for something, because we're still accepting blog posts as well. If anybody wanted to write for us, then we'd be happy to accept that. So get in touch.
Excellent. Yep. And Sandy, you said you were publishing some blog posts on your website. So
yes,
tell people...
so it's just yep. So it's just sandybarker.com, and I've got they're on the main page. So mine I think is sitting at the top at the moment because I just published it a couple of days ago, and Kate's comes out tomorrow, and then we've got one every Wednesday through the end of the month. So,
fantastic. Yeah. I have to say that, last episode, Darren and I talked about vulnerability in writing and the importance of sharing some of that. So I'll have to say thank you so much, both of you, for being so generous and sharing your vulnerabilities and talking about mental health, mental illness, and all of the things that go around this whole issue and sector. So thank you very much, Kate Foster, children's author and dog lover, and Sandy Barker, rom-com author extraordinaire and traveller of the world, for being on the Australian Booklovers Podcast. And please, readers and writers, get out there, have a look at the auction items, put in your bids when it starts on the 1st of April, and any authors or people in the publishing industry who want to support Authors for Mental Health, get in touch with Kate and or Sandy and be a part of it.
100%. And any authors out there, get your books up. Every author out there that's listening right now, you've got a book you can give away. That includes myself. I'm going to grab a couple out as well. But look, Kate, Sandy, as far as I know, it can be a difficult subject. It can be a serious subject, obviously, and it's probably a subject that's going to still come with many challenges, especially as it in the state we're in with the world and possibly a mental health pandemic. However, with initiatives like this, like the one that you're all embarking on, I suspect that we're in really, really good hands and a really good position to come out of it stronger than we've ever been. And I think there's an opportunity for everyone who's been touched by mental health or knows someone who's been touched by mental health. It's initiatives like this that are really, I suspect this is going to be just the start of something huge for everybody. It's because of initiatives like this that people can learn more, they can maybe learn something about themselves, and they can start to see hope moving forward in the future. So thank you so much. It is absolutely amazing.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having us. We really, really appreciate Australian Book Lovers being a safe place for us to come. So thank you for supporting us and supporting this initiative. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. What Sandy said. Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you.
Most welcome, and good luck with the auction. I hope it raises not only some money, but some fantastic awareness and, as Darren says, some education. So take care, readers, and keep your eye out on the various social media for Authors for Mental Health.
Thank you, everybody.
Let's meet again when magic happens.
Australian Book Lovers acknowledges First Nations peoples and recognises their continuous connection to country, community and to culture. We pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging, and honour the sharing of traditional stories passed down through generations. We're committed to a safe and inclusive welcome for authors and readers of all cultures and backgrounds, including people of LGBTQIA+ communities and their families.